We're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 27th Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to go ahead and get us started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kogler?
Here.
Commissioner Neal?
Here.
Commissioner Christensen?
Here.
Commissioner Roden?
Here.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Present.
Commissioner Connolly? Chairperson Covarrubias?
Here.
Record will reflect that Commissioner Connolly is absent. He did notify us that he was not able to make tonight's meeting.
Okay, great. Staff introductions, please.
Marcy Reynoso and Jessica Ferguson, Administrative Assistants.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Darren Nash, City Planner.
Dante Pecorino, Development Review Engineer.
This is Andrew Falso from the City Attorney's Office.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Marcy. All right. Item E. Are there any general public comments regarding matters not on the agenda? Seeing none in the audience. Marcy, any callers?
No callers.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any items proposed to be tabled or rescheduled?
There are none.
Thank you, Warren. Okay, let's start off with item G, first public hearing item, Alexis Hotel, refile P24-0040, PD 24-07. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is a request for a time extension refile for the Alexa Hotel. This hotel is located on Alexa Court, which is off of Theater Drive, in the vicinity of the corner of Highway 46 West and Theater Drive. This is a 38-room hotel, 3 stories. Development plan was approved in 2018. There was a grading permit issued in January of 2020. However, that's when the pandemic hit and the project did not move forward. The building permit was approved in 2023 but never issued. The applicant has applied for new entitlements for the same project. So this is showing the site plan off of Alexa Court. This hotel is near the La Bella Serra Hotel, the Hampton Inn. Those are all off of the same cul-de-sac here. It's a small boutique hotel, 38 rooms, with, I believe it was the 3 stories. There's some architecture. Floor plans. So this project is in the C2 zoning district where hotels are permitted. The parking complies with the parking requirements for hotels in this zone. As mentioned, there are additional hotels on this cul-de-sac. This project seems to be compatible with the neighborhood. The request before the Planning Commission tonight is to approve the refile of the expired project and for the including the development plan, or option 2, approve the project with modifications by amending the resolution. Option 3 would be refer the project back to the DRC, or 4 is deny the project based on findings. Staff's recommending approving the refile option 1. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Darren. Okay, We'll start off to my right. If there are any questions from any of the commissioners to my right, seeing none yet. Looking over to my left. I think this looks like it's pretty simple. Okay, we'll close our portion. Are there any comments? Open it up to general comments in the public. Any comments in the public? Seeing none. Marcy, any callers? Oh, hang on. Are there comments on the hotel? Yes? Go ahead and state your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Peter Patel, and I'm representing this hotel.
Okay.
I'm one of the family members that are building this hotel, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to come here. We have one request. I know if we could still extend the date of the expiration of permit for an extra 6 months. So maybe by June 2026, if we could do that, we would really appreciate it. We are trying to get into dialogues with the general contractor and the lenders. So once we have the numbers of the general contractors, we will be able to move forward with the lenders. And that might take a subsequent time because the general contractor has to get us some numbers that we can give out to the lenders so they can consider for funding the project.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please state your name.
How you doing? Francisco Ramirez, 1130 Dorothy Street, Paso Robles, California.
Thank you.
I do remember when this first came about. I remember seeing it also, and I would like to also, as a community member, specify and ask that you do approve this, like it was suggested by staff members. With our, economy that it is in the tourist area that we have, we need more of this type of business to help the rest of the economy, help us out, because during the fair, there is no room in any hotel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Are there any other comments? Public? Seeing none in front of me. Marcy, any callers?
There's no callers.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the general public comment portion of this, bring it back to the commission. Any questions, comments, recommendations?
I was actually the only one on the commission that was here when this was approved the first time. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I like the project then, and I still like the project, and I think it'd be a good addition to that side of town. Offer a slightly different sort of dining or lodging experience.
Excellent. Commissioner Christensen?
Nope. If there's no other comments from the commissioners, I move to approve this resolution.
Okay.
PC 25 XX for development of plan 2507.
Okay, we've got a recommendation of first on the table. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Neal? Roll call? Oh, Darren, sorry.
Just clarification, he asked about time.
Oh, sure.
This is a refile, so it's a two-year timeline, as opposed to typically a time extension would be 1 year. This, since we're reapproving the entitlements, it's a 2-year expansion. If at the time the 2 years doesn't work, there's the ability to request a time extension at that point.
Awesome. Darren, thank you for that clarification. I think Mr. Patel will be happy with that. Okay, good. Okay, Warren, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Roden.
Aye.
Chairperson Covarrubias.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All righty. Thank you for that. Going on to our second item, we have an amendment of conditional use permit 87-006. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, members of the Planning Commission. This is a request for Central Coast Smog and Auto at 639 Creston Road. This is at the corner of Walnut and Creston Road. So a little overview. This was originally approved approved, this is a conditional use permit that was originally approved in 1987 for this property. This current owner purchased it in 2016. At that time, the city was receiving code enforcement concerns in 2016 based on neighborhood concerns with non-compatibility. The applicant has intensified the auto repair use, graded without permits, installed fencing without city approvals, and established a vehicle storage lot. The Planning Commission has reviewed the project on 3 separate occasions, twice in 2018, again in 2023, where the Commission each time has chose the option of giving the applicant the opportunity to bring a site plan back into compliance as opposed to revoking the use permit. The most recent Planning Commission review was in November of 2023, where the Commission recommended the applicant apply for an amendment to the CUP requesting expanded activities. In August 2024, the applicant submitted an application to amend the CUP requesting the Planning Commission support as-built changes made on the site, including installation of the 6-foot tall perimeter fence, which enclosed a portion of the property not originally included in the 1987 CUP. As a result of the enclosed area, vehicles stored behind the fence have resulted in land use conflict, creating a non-conforming outdoor storage yard, which is not permitted in the C2 zone. Based on the concerns that the as-built condition does not conform to the underlying zoning, staff has provided a recommended site plan which shows scaling back the fenced area and increasing on-site parking. In March 2025, the DRC reviewed the applicant's site plan and the staff suggested site plan. The DRC indicated that staff's version was heading in the right path of conformity and recommend the Planning Commission review these plans. So the request this evening for the Planning Commission is to review the plans submitted by the applicant as well as the plan provided by staff and give direction on which site plan to proceed with. This is a slide showing the existing CUP, which is the white rectangle. There's faint outlines of the footprint of the building and the parking. That area was the portion of the site that the CUP approved for auto repair back in 1987. You can see the grading that's occurred beyond that rectangle boundary, and then the beginning of storage of vehicles and equipment on that expanded area. And these are some photos that were taken at the time the project went to the Planning Commission back in 2023. At that time, the Planning Commission suggested that the applicant provide a new site plan to be reviewed by the DRC for consistency of the city design standards and neighborhood compatibility. These are some more current photos of the site, view from Creston Road, then a view from Walnut there at the corner. These were taken at the time the project went to DRC. So this is the site plan that was provided by the applicant in response to the Planning Commission in 2023, suggesting that they come back with a site plan to amend the CUP. When the CUP was reviewed by the Planning Commission previously, the Planning Commission couldn't make findings that the activities on the site were complying with the existing use permit. So the alternative that the Planning Commission had was the Planning Commission could revoke the use permit, or we could work with the applicant to try and come up with a site plan that works with hopefully what the client needs or what the applicant needs and complies with the zoning code. So that is what over the past few times the Planning Commission has reviewed the project. The option has been there to revoke the CUP since it's not complying. However, planning commissions over the years have wanted to work with the applicant, come up with site planning that could work with the applicant's needs, but also work with the zoning code. The applicant has not been able to provide site planning that work with the zoning code. This site plan that you see here was the site plan provided after the last planning commission review, which basically is an as-built plan that accepts the grading that was done, that proposes the perimeter fencing that was already installed without approvals, and the storage yard as part of this site planning, which storage yards are not allowed in the C2 zone. This also proposes a couple different structures. There's a canopy structure at the back of the building, and then there's a proposed separate building at the upper left corner of this site plan, proposing some additional auto repair bays. So when staff reviews this, the fencing doesn't comply with zoning for storage yards. The zoning doesn't allow storage yards. And then the additional buildings require additional parking. So this plan is something that we're requesting the Planning Commission review, but just knowing that it doesn't comply with zoning code requirements. This is showing the outline of the project itself. It's showing some parking spaces. That's the existing building. This is the proposed auto repair building. And this is a 45-foot by 30-foot patio cover, which I believe is like a shade structure, so work can occur in the shade. The dashed line is the existing perimeter fence that they're proposing to remain as is. This is a site plan that staff worked up to try and provide the parking that's necessary for the proposed buildings, and then reduce what is happening behind the fence. The dashed purple there is indicating where the fence could go, and then that area, if approved, if approved by the CUP amendment, could be used for accessory storage, work area, along with the new structures. So this site plan is what staff's recommending after looking at the zoning code in relation to C2 zoning, the parking required, and having smaller accessory storage to the auto repair use, which is what this use is, and then providing some landscape screening in the parking areas. So those two site plans, the applicant's site plan and then the staff suggested site plan, went to the DRC on March 17th. The DRC reviewed both plans, and then overall the DRC members indicated the applicant would be going in the right direction by utilizing staff's recommendation, since the site appeared to be overly intense in its current state. The site plan decision was sent to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. And that's what we're here for tonight. The recommendations with this site plan, again, are additional parking spaces. In relation to the proposed additional buildings, there would need to be a total of 16 parking spaces. This site plan accommodates the 16 parking spaces in a manner that meets the size of spaces, the necessary back out, the required landscaping to go along with this site plan. This requires relocating the fence to the burgundy dashed line there. And then it would require landscape and irrigation by a licensed professional. So the options tonight are to direct staff and the applicant to prepare a final site plan based on staff's March 17th recommendation to the Planning Commission. Or option 2 would be direct staff and the applicant to prepare a final site plan based on the applicant's proposed site plan. Or 3, direct staff and the applicant to prepare a final site plan based on alternative direction provided by the Planning Commission. This option would still require that site plan to come back to the Planning Commission for the amendment to the conditional use permit. We wanted to bring the site planning effort to the Planning Commission to get some direction to the applicant so that we know efforts are being made to go down the right, correct path to come back to the Planning Commission with a plan that could be supported. And at that time, we still need to amend the CUP for this new site plan. It's proposing additional buildings and things, which could happen, but only if the parking and the storage component are correct. So the two options are there, the applicant's version and the one suggested by staff for you to review and discuss tonight. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Darren, thank you for that staff report. All right, looking to my right, we'll start with some commissioner questions. Any on my right to start with? Commissioner Kogler?
Mr. Chair, I was on the DRC, so I think I've been through this a bit in wetland form, but I'm glad to listen to my peers.
Commissioner Christensen?
Thank you, Chair. I had a couple follow-up questions. I know one of the questions that we had previously as the progress of this project has kind of come around timeline. Was the wall ever completed in the back? I know that was an issue previously.
I believe the grading was signed off by the engineering department, but I don't believe the wall was completed. And I don't know a whole lot about those specifics, and it could have been that at the end the wall may not have been
maybe Dante
necessary to build.
Do you have
Dante,
some follow-up info on that permit?
Dante was here.
Dante in the engineering department. So in 2018, that we went through a process where it was red tagged and then brought into compliance, but that was never finalized. The final inspections and final permitting of the wall by the building department or the engineering department. So we're working internally on, kind of getting those final inspections done and being able to close out that permit. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in the works, but it's not currently permitted, final permitted. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dante. Just some clarification. What happens, I guess I'll start with this question. In the entrance to the property, there's two envelopes there off of, entrance envelopes off of Creston Road. Are both of those for the ingress and egress of that particular property? Is that part of the requirements in the design plan?
Drive approaches?
Yeah, the drive approaches. I'm sorry. I know I can't get the words out of my mouth.
I think those are drive approaches that...
There's two in the front.
Yeah, they're existing, but it is not a requirement. The project could be designed to use less than two on Creston Road.
Okay, just it's a question that I'll bring back probably later. What happens, Darren, on the timeline? Where are we at with the timeline in the sense that previously it was 180 days to submit something, which it sounds like they did, and then what transpires in that regard? Can you enlighten me on where we're at and then where we would go?
Yeah, and I think that, the direction has been, each time the Planning Commission has looked at it, is staff work with the applicants. Let's try and get something so that we're not forced with revoking the use permit. So the time from the last meeting to the point where we got a submittal from the applicant. And then there was quite a bit of back and forth over the time of the submittal with staff to get the necessary information on what the buildings are going to look like. What are they used for? Because originally it was just, rectangles on a plan. It really didn't show us much. So it took us a while to get to a point where we had the necessary plans that we could understand what was going on. But that's entirely up to the planning commission. So right now, we don't have like a drop dead time. We are coming back to the planning commission, trying to get direction so that we can keep this moving and get to a point where it's under compliance and we're not trying to do code enforcement on it. Get to a point where the business can stay, it can run in a point where it's consistent with whatever use permit is on file, right? Right now, the use permit is from 1987 that has conditions that aren't being complied with. We're trying to work with the applicant to amend that use permit to come up with something that complies with the zoning code. And that is an effort that the applicant has not been able to provide. So we're taking steps to, let's see if we can, staff took the step, which we typically don't get involved with designing site plans, but, with existing uses and trying to take in consideration the old use permit, get more parking, get them some more area, but not get the project to a point where it becomes a storage yard. It's not acceptable to the neighbors. We've gotten complaints over it, and it doesn't comply with the zoning code. So that's where this site plan's coming from.
Okay, that's all my questions for right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Roden?
Couple of questions. You said this was a C2 zone?
Correct.
And storage is not usually allowed in a C2 zone? Or is it a different size storage?
So vehicle storage lots, in terms of a use, are not permitted. Businesses, the primary business of auto repair, for instance, is permitted with a conditional use permit. And accessory storage, storage that when you drive by, you're not seeing large fences, vehicles that extend above the fence height. That is what the concern is. But it is possible to have storage as an accessory to a use.
Is there a size restraint in comparison to the building itself for that storage? Does it have to be half the size? Or cannot be more than twice the size? Is there a limit?
It depends on the site, and what's driving the size for this site is the required setbacks for fences, the required landscape screening. In this case, the parking spaces needed for the uses are what is reducing the size of a storage area.
I guess my question is, it's still pretty large. And I don't know if and that's what I'm asking, is there a restraint? Now I understand that he put up the fence. Is the height, well, the fencing alone was not permitted, but is the height permitted, the 6 foot? I mean, the whole thing wasn't permitted, so I guess you could if he'd gotten requested it.
So setbacks and landscaping is required when you get to fencing. And again, when it gets to the reason for the fences to store equipment and things, then is it a storage use, or is it accessory to an auto repair shop that's permitted to have one service bay? And that's what we're dealing with, is a use permit that is limited and described as a minor auto repair shop. So complying with the use permit is what we're dealing with, and then the whole idea of a conditional use permit is compatibility with the surroundings. So I don't really have a zoning code that says you can only be 25% of the square footage or 50% of the square footage. But what I have is when you have a fence, there's a setback requirement for fence when you're screening outdoor storage. And I have a zoning code that says that vehicle storage is not permitted.
And that's what's being stored there, is it not, vehicles?
Correct.
Okay. And
what we do understand is that auto repair shops may have some storage needs, but it's gone beyond what the original use permit would allow. And then the question is, if we're expanding that, how much larger can we get and still call it compatible, you know?
And I saw in pictures where there was a lot of parking on the street. Has that been part of the issue as well? And that we're hoping to alleviate with the parking area here?
Parking on the street for licensed vehicles is hard to control.
No, I know, but
Well, we were getting complaints over equipment, trailers, different types of vehicles being parked. So, you know, as with a licensed vehicle and the time constraints for parking, if that's complied with, we have a hard time telling someone they can't park a legal vehicle.
Well, it's been a long process, it sounds like. I am concerned that the fence was built without a permit. Well, you've answered those questions, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marlowe?
Yes. So I probably asked this the first time around. What was the definition of vehicle storage as defined in length or time? Because obviously sometimes a vehicle sits for a week or two, and I'm sure some of those are sitting longer than that. But what was that? Did we ever have a defined definition of when it becomes a stored vehicle? Did I miss it?
What we have now is the use permit from 1987, which tells us what areas of the property can be used. The storage area is beyond what the site plan that was approved in 1987 for the minor auto repair allowed.
And I understand that, but let's say all those vehicles were there one day and then left, and I'm just being extreme. Would that be considered storage? Because I'm hopeful that beyond figuring out with the applicant how to make this work, that the vehicles that are being stored are moved out quicker and what that timeline would look like. But obviously that takes policing and energy. So is there a definition on time? And that obviously this is a storage yard. Like, I'm not arguing that, but what if those were there a day, would that be storage, right? What does that look like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, and I don't think it's anything where staff can monitor what cars are there and how long. I think where staff's site plan is coming from is he's proposing additional buildings to increase his auto repair business capacity.
Sure.
And if we say, okay, let's he has the ability to apply for a use permit amendment. More buildings are allowed by the zoning code. Auto repair is allowed by the zoning code. So can we amend the use permit to allow for that increased auto repair?
Sure.
We know that with the additional buildings, with the additional parking for the buildings, the requirements for, being able to have enough room to back out of a parking space, the landscaping requirements, those components need to be designed into this site plan, which starts to reduce this fenced-in area. And that's where staff's site plan comes from. So we're handling okay, let's see what we can do to get more business here or more auto repair opportunity. But having the storage yard starts to overcome the auto repair facility where we say, you know what, this is a vehicle storage lot.
Yeah.
And that's not permitted.
Absolutely. So to that point, we reduce the size of it, we allow it to be a storage yard to a degree, and we add all those spots. What's the rules around them just parking cars in those spots for storage? Like
What I would think is if he comes back with a conditional use permit, the planning commission puts conditions of approval on there that say that those spots aren't going to have overnight parking of vehicles. So, you know, if you have something there that's waiting for parts and going to be overnight, well, maybe that's what that accessory storage is for, or the additional auto bays are for. But the way that the planning commission controls that is by having conditions of approval that don't allow vehicles to be stored outside.
That's an option for sure. Okay, I think I'm getting it. And just for my own knowledge, from parking on the street for a licensed vehicle, what is this times constraint on that? Because I think there are probably some that end up
I believe it's
there.
72 hours.
72 hours, so 3 days. But how much policing really goes on with that?
Well, there's been quite a bit because the neighbors are complaining.
Okay, so
over the years, I don't know that we've had a lot of complaints on the street parking as we have in the past.
Okay, I think that's all I got. Thanks.
Did it not turn on? Okay, sorry about that. So let's start with, I think I know where Commissioner Marlowe was going on the fence. So just for clarity, one of the reasons that we're having an issue here is because we have an unpermitted fence that was put up that is, in all intents and purposes, from the city's standpoint, is being used for storage. Accurate? So I think part of the challenge that we have, and I think what Commissioner Marlowe was trying to get to was, given the type of business that we're dealing with, I would assume, complete assumption on my part, maybe the applicant can clarify this, is that it's necessary on occasion to have a vehicle stored for a couple of days while they wait for parts. I think what Commissioner Marlowe, and I don't want to speak for him, is trying to get to is what deems a vehicle waiting for parts as storage versus a vehicle that's never going to run again, is going to be scrapped for parts, right? There's something mechanically wrong with it, and it's probably going to be there a couple of weeks until he disposes it. To me, that is absolutely a storage need versus a need for the business that maybe, even if it's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. My daughter had to replace an engine in her vehicle. It took a week to get the engine. It sat there for over a week because they had to repair it. So my question, I think that's what he's getting to is, and that's what I'd like clarification, because the city doesn't have the capabilities of monitoring something like this like we have in so many other occasions, right? So what's the protocol here? I mean, how do we even begin? Let's say we allow the smaller storage area. To me, whether it's this size or smaller, are we? What's the benefit? I get we're trying to find a gray area here to help the applicant, and I am too. But to me, the way it exists now versus what we're proposing, a smaller. I don't hate to say it this way, but what's the difference?
Well, and maybe there's a use permit that has conditions that no cars be parked outside overnight or everything be indoors. We did that to an auto repair shop that we worked on Paso Robles Street. There was specific to everything being indoors. We've had various auto repair shops. That's why they're required to have conditional use permits, is to try and control how the things that are to be done inside come on to the outside, and is that compatible? So I think the answer to your question is that the use permit from 1987 was for a minor auto repair shop, stereo installation, lube, oil changes. That's what the use permit project description said. I don't think this use permit was designed for the week-long engine overhauls, or, you know what I mean? So those things need to happen, but they might need to happen in a site that can accommodate those kind of things. So that's what his business has shown needs here. The problem is the use permit doesn't allow for it. So how do we get the business going? Basically, he's showing you by this fence and this, what's happening here, what's needed for his business. And the city's saying that those uses aren't allowed. The zoning code does not allow that. So here's an alternative site plan so that you can keep your auto shop moving. Otherwise, he may need to go find a larger property that has the ability to have more storage. This site doesn't allow it.
Okay. I appreciate that. The crazy thing is that, you know, I drive by this property all the time up and down Crescent's one of the main corridors, right, heading east and west. I rarely see a vehicle in the front, which I think is a positive thing. So they obviously must be parked in the back, which I think could be a positive thing too, right? They're kind of more out of the line of sight of the main corridor there where vehicles are constantly traveling and vision is easy. So I don't see a lot of vehicles. So I think that's where I'm struggling with this. I don't like the fact that he did it unpermitted, but I think it sounds like he's trying to work with the city. And I'm just trying to figure out what we're proposing is a compromise, but in the end, are we still basically telling him he can still store vehicles there? I don't know. I guess I'm struggling with that. Can you go to page 9 of your rendering or your presentation? I just had a quick question on parking. So in this rendering here, it shows 16 parking areas proposed based on the compromise. My question is, what is that based on? What are the 16 units, 16 spaces based on? My understanding from a previous meeting was that I believe it was three stalls per bay or something like that. And he can probably clarify, I think he's got 2 bays existing. So that would be 6. That's right. So I guess I'm just trying to understand where the 16 is coming into play here.
And I'm sure they can explain that a little better for you. And then the staff report was a table that Darcy Delgado put together, and it had to do with the number of spaces that the original use permit site plan had. Mm-hmm. And then additionally was the additional parking spaces needed for the proposed new buildings. So Darcy's, for the building, the new square footage of the buildings, the new bays that being proposed, the 16 spaces is what the number is based on his recent site plan submittal.
Based on the recent site plan. So
I think there was a little, in the staff report, it talked about, 7 parking spaces, 12 parking spaces. Right. So I'd have to go back and look. I'm pinch hitting for Darcy tonight, but I do know that based on her table in the staff report was based on the use permit number of spaces, and then the added square footage is where the 16 came from.
So just for clarity, how many spaces does he currently have now, do you know, off the top of your head? Because I believe he's got 12 now, if I remember right.
There were striped spaces, and then there was additional striping, so I don't know exactly.
Okay, we'll have the applicant clarify that for us. Okay, there's some other questions, but I think the applicant's anxious to speak. You moved up from, so we'll go ahead and see if there's if the applicant would like to talk, offer any feedback. Go ahead and state your name, please.
Christian Mercado. So there is a couple of things I want to clarify. So the wall was completed in October of 2023. And then re-inspected again April of 25. For the fencing, I did call the city and I asked them what the setbacks were and where I could put it. So they said it has to be behind my front door, 5 feet from curb or the back of butting up to another property. So then after she told me that, then I went ahead and built it. She said I didn't need a permit. I forget who I talked to, but that's what I was told. So then I put it up. So regarding the complaints, I did have a lot of complaints when I first started. I tried to litigate them. And as far as I know, the complaints stopped in late 2022, early 23. I haven't had any complaints. After that, then that's when I applied for the new CUP because the old CUP didn't do anything for me in order to operate this property. So that's why we're here, trying to get a new CUP and approve this plan that will work for me. So the reason for the fence is to keep the front clean, trying to keep visibility visible, and basically have everything that stays overnight behind the fence. I get it. They're calling it storage. Most of the cars, you're right, they do stay 3, 4, 5 days, but they leave. They're not there for a long period of time. I think that's what I got for now. I know Yoshi, the engineer, had some follow-ups too.
Okay, Mr. Mercado, thank you. Go ahead and have a seat and probably stay close. Go ahead and say your name.
My name is Yosema Ramos. I'm a civil engineer that's assisting Christian. When he came to me, he told me all this past that we heard, and I understood his intentions. I mean, starting off with the building he wants to put in the back with New Bay. From my understanding from him, he wanted to kind of keep the whole production moving faster, as keep less cars in the yard and etc. And to the fence, right? We talked about the fence, how we want to keep the fence, basically keep the cars stored in, keep depth. He had issues with depth at the fence, that went away. And then, so yeah, based that. Now we go back to the two main concerns I've had back and forth with the city about parking stall and fence setback. Regarding the parking stall, we talked about a little about the bay. Per the code, one bay equals two cars where he could service the cars. So technically in his existing garage, he has one bay. So that equals 3 parking stalls. Another part of the code says, or take the square feet of the whole building, and for every 1,000 square feet is 3 parking stalls. Worst case scenario, right? So the building's approximately 1,300, so that equals 4 parking stalls or 3 parking stalls. We'll take the worst case scenario, 4 parking stalls. So that's kind of where that number 4 starts. And then we add another bay that he wants to add, which is 2 parking for 2 service cars. That's another 3, that's 7, right? And now we add another with the the canopy, which according to the code, we could do 1,000 per 1 parking spot. That's 1 parking spot extra. So total base case, if we use the current codes that is today, we're looking at 9 parking spots required per my proposed site plan. Scratch that. The original MUP said there's 7 parking spots. Okay, let's take the 7. We'll take it. We add the 3, that's 10. We add the 1 for the canopy, that's 11. That's 11 parking spots, which we proposed because obviously slightly more parking stalls better than less, right? I mean, at this point, they want us to put 16. Like, where is that coming from? I would really like to hear that breakdown. Now, coming from the fence, there's no actual required setbacks that I found on the code regarding the fence. It just meant to state all the requirements per that location and that zoning. they wanted 5 feet a buffer of landscape from the right of way to the fence. That's it. There's no, past that, there's no requirement of moving the fence any farther in. I mean, again, I understand their concerns of overnight parking, but right here, obviously hired by him, I have to give my best interest to him, and I understand where he's coming from. I mean, again, he has cars, he provides service of towing, so he has to keep all that under inside the parking fencing. Past that, like you guys mentioned, the size of it is not going to change the parking, the overnight parking. If you guys limit him, he's still going to park in the front and create more problems in the future. I talked to him. He said it to me where he's like he prefers the bigger area just to take advantage of the space available. He does not want to create any more future problems, and he does not want to keep stuff outside and just inside. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Go ahead. Go ahead and state your name again, please. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. This is not public comment yet. We're still dealing with the applicant. Yeah, sorry about that. But we will open it soon. Mr. Mercado, can you step back up to the mic real quick? A quick question. Can you clarify for me, in your honest opinion, what is the length of time that a vehicle will actually stay? Because when I look at the renderings, the pictures, some of those don't look like cars. I see trailer. I see, I think, a wood stack somewhere back there.
So I
think that's what the concern is.
Okay. I still do have construction supplies there. I still have equipment. The trailers is what I use to tow vehicles to the shop. So those are there probably most of the time, unless they're out on the road. They do go out every day, so they do stay in overnight.
Okay. All right. So, Commissioner Kogler, yes, sir.
Mr. Mercado, could you clarify what is the nature of the repair work that you do?
The nature that I do, services, replace broken parts, cars that don't pass smog, repair emission-related components.
Excuse me. So the references that have come from the table about engine overhauls or maybe transmission repairs or something like that, do you do that kind of work as well?
I don't overhaul it, no.
What is the most intense repair you do on site?
An R&R transmission. So I would remove the old one, put a new one in.
Okay, so you're swapping out parts.
Correct.
Okay. I'll come back and comment later. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Roden?
Commissioner Kogler, thank you. Asked one of the primary. So do you change oil, do any tire work, do any simplification of any of the usual things I think that was expected to be there?
So I do oil changes. I don't do any tires, no.
Okay. And you only have one bay. There used to be 2 bays there, weren't there?
Yeah, there's 2 bays.
There are?
Yes.
And I didn't, maybe I'm missing something. I didn't see the proposed site plan of your expansion. Is that just the 1,000 square feet of covered area behind the building?
No, so we submitted it, so it is that one there, the one that is.
Is it the yellow part?
Yes, both yellows.
Okay, and the parking is the blue line, so it goes into that area.
Yes.
Am I correct? I heard that there was a motorhome park there. Was that correct or no?
So right now there is, yes.
Okay, because that's been there a little bit.
That one has, yes. So that one went to storage and I brought it back for repairs, yes.
Okay, is that being worked on or is it?
That one is, so we're doing a ignition harness.
With this storage area, I wouldn't expect it to provide, is there fencing all the way around or is that bank not fenced?
The bank is not fenced.
So it's not a complete closure?
No.
For safety? So
no, not on the hill.
On the uphill, so people could come in the back. They just can't get things in and out, basically.
Correct. Yeah, it's a 2-to-1 slope, so it's
right.
Pretty hard.
So with 16 spots that are proposed, I'm sorry? Did somebody say something? Oh. With the 16 spots being proposed, would that not accommodate whatever vehicles that you have that linger for days or a week?
On the outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can accommodate. The only thing is I've had problem with catalytic converters getting stolen.
I understand that. So are you proposing that you're not going to be parking anything out there overnight? That it'll all be in the back?
Correct.
So the only parking that'd be necessary is people for drop off and pick up?
Correct.
The end of day?
The beginning of the day, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and there was a comment that you made about there not being a code for the enclosure for the fencing for that area, except for the setbacks. I understood, Darren, that you say that that is not allowed in that specific area. Did I misunderstand?
That what's not allowed?
The enclosure, the fenced area, that you can't have a storage area.
So vehicle storage as a use is not allowed.
Okay. So it wouldn't matter if it was, I mean, that's what it's being used for. Okay, I think that's it for right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Darren, can you help me just real quick again, one last time? He made a comment about, and I know the city staff well enough to know the situation, that he made a phone call, asked about the fencing, indicated whether or not there were setbacks, but basically was told that he didn't need a permit for the fencing. Is there ever a situation where that would not be the case? I'm just curious. Is there a situation where he would be able to somehow put up a fence that wouldn't require a permit?
The issue here is there's a conditional use permit for a use that has a site plan that says what can happen where. And that's why the fence isn't complying with what the use permit allowed. The project has gone beyond the limits of the white rectangle that the use permit allowed. If you had a use that didn't require a use permit and didn't have any kind of approved site planning, it was something that was a permitted use, that it was already established, but then likely you wouldn't have a commercial business coming in for fencing. The reason for the fencing is for the storage component, which isn't allowed. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. We deal with residential people asking, can I build a fence? Yes, you can build a fence. Do you need a permit? No, you don't. But you do need to make sure the heights are correct and it's set back properly. So, unfortunately, whoever was at the city talking on the phone didn't have all the information of this is a use permit that allows certain uses. That's what we're coming back to, is the site plan that's approved with the use permit and what is going to be permitted to expand on and what isn't. The designer was up here indicating one bay. Then we heard there's two bays. Why do you need all of this fencing and storage for a two-bay auto repair shop that's only allowed to do minor repairs? So nowadays we get a little more specific on our use permits than what the 87 one did. But that's kind of the question that's here before the Planning Commission is, here's the site plan from 87, here's the site plan the applicant is requesting, and staff trying to facilitate something to happen. We've been doing this same kind of discussion for, going on 7 years or something like that. So here's a use. We want to see him remain. We want to see him thrive, but he's gone beyond what he can do for a two-bay auto repair. And now he wants more bays. Okay. Well, auto repair with the use permit allows more bays if you can work with it on site. You can't have all this and this big storage yard. That's kind of where we're at. How do you maneuver the cars to get in and out of the bays when you have storage of vehicles sitting in the way between here and the bays? So then what are the bays for? How do you, the question for the Planning Commission could be, you're asking for, if we go back to the proposed site plan. So you've got these yellow rectangles showing you've got 37 by 25 auto repair building. I'm not sure how the cars get from the front to the back to get to those bays, with the storage that is shown in the storage area, or, using this yellow rectangle for service. I'm assuming service of the things that are back behind there. How does all of that work with the other things that are going on back there? Those are site planning, questions that we've been asking, and that's why staff has come up with here's a site plan that looks like could get you some expansion to your business, some accessory storage, and comply with parking, landscaping, and fencing. So that's what we're trying to establish here, is getting the storage area back behind the building, off the street, providing the parking, and also trying to get them more bays to do more work in.
Okay, thank you for that, Darren.
I got a question for the applicant.
For the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Marlowe has a question for the applicant.
The city's proposed plan, and keep in mind, the city, 7 years back and forth, obviously, there's been a lot of time and energy invested in this on everyone's part. So I think a little bit of, working with each other is granted. So is this proposed plan not going to help your business continue to grow? Obviously the passive least resistance is to leave it where it's at and build some buildings and keep going the way you're going. But yeah, sure, maybe there's some negotiations on the parking. Maybe 15 and 16 aren't necessary. Maybe 14 is not necessary. Maybe you could do some little wiggle room. But this seems pretty decent. You get to Darren's point, if you're going to build these buildings and try to leave this thing full, and then you got a trash enclosure, which you can't park cars in front of that, so you're going to have minimum spot. Does this not support your business and growth?
So the reason, it potentially could work, but I'm trying to keep my larger vehicles, my truck and trailer, behind the fence so they're not visible to the public. That is why where the 11 through 16 parkings are. So.
Okay, so basically you want to leave it the way it is just for your trailer specifically.
Correct. Trucks and trailers, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I could still park it, but they'd be visible to everybody. And then, so I'm trying to hide potentially complaints, which I know I haven't had any since the fence went up.
Can we confirm that, Darren, that there's been no complaints since the fence gone up?
I did.
I'd have to confirm. I don't know. I do agree that the complaints in the area, I don't know specifically because of the fence or not, but in terms of the vehicles parked on streets and things like that.
No, and it seems like you've made a tremendous effort to, work with the people in the neighborhood, because I'm sure if you lived in a neighborhood and there was things like that, you would have the same challenge. So I see both sides of the coin, because technically this gets you somewhat aligned with the zoning code and the conditional use permit. And to your point earlier about calling and the city saying something, and to Darren's point, they didn't know you had a conditional use permit. So yes, they might have been correct in saying that if they had known that, that would have been a different conversation.
Correct. And I didn't ask, and I didn't think the conditional use permit was part of that, but now I do.
Sure.
Yes.
So I can see both. being valid. I'd be curious to what my other commissioners say. I don't think 16 parking spots. Now I'd have to go and look at all the data and figure that out. But there's a little bit of a challenge in there because I definitely, and moving is out of the question. You're happy where you're at and that's what you're doing, right? And I'm not telling you have to. I'm just curious if you've been battling this for 7 years. I mean,
I've been battling the old CUP, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing this new CUP
Sure.
to get rid of the old stuff.
but you like where you're at, you know?
Yeah, and then I feel like I've done great since the fence, well, I think the fence did a big difference, to be honest with you.
Sure. No, I mean, and those photos are up on a hill. It's, you know, it can be a little deceiving. So I understand that. So I think that's all I got, some stuff to noodle on. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Gogler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got another question, if I may. Can you put the slide up with the two expansion areas of the building and the patio cover kind of? Yeah, right there. So you referenced your truck and trailer, and I know you described at the DRC that you go out frequently and pick up vehicles and bring them in. It's a pickup and a fairly lengthy trailer, which was parked on Walnut on Friday, I can tell you. It probably parks on Walnut once in a while, which is legal. Is there not room where it says 45 by 30 patio and there's an arrow pointing to the left? Is there not room in that space for a truck and a trailer to park?
So the 90-degree turn where the gate is, it won't make it now. I believe.
The gate on, so it could be, okay. So we're heading to the left, so to speak, and where your new building is, you can't make the radius there to come back out that driveway that comes back out onto the road. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
It seems like designing a site plan for one piece of equipment is always going to be very tricky.
Yeah, yeah, everything is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. I think we're, maybe one more.
Sorry.
Commissioner Roden.
Going along with Mr. Kogler, instead of pulling it through for the night, you could pull it in through the arrow and then back it out in the daytime.
Correct. So we back it in and then we pull it out. Yes.
Okay, same difference. So you would have a place to be able to park it there outside the shed in the driveway.
Out front? I mean, yeah.
No, in the back.
Do I?
If
I misunderstood.
You could still have it within the fenced area. If it won't make that 90-degree turn, you could back it in or pull it in and back out one way or the other.
Oh, yes.
To storage at night.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
I got a question for you, just for clarification. The grading, was that signed off from your knowledge or not? Yes or no?
That was the first one signed off, and then in 23, the wall got signed off.
So it got signed off, and then again, you mentioned April of 25.
Darcy called me, and she said it wasn't signed off, so she sent somebody again back in April.
Oh, in 25.
So I don't know where the miscommunication was.
Okay. And then on the fence itself, because it sounds like it's not so much the issue of the actual fence itself, it's the issue that you're storing vehicles is what's violating the existing CUP, if I'm understanding. No? So the fence is an issue. Okay. Okay. All right. So the setbacks currently on the fence are what?
5 feet.
5 feet in all directions?
Both directions, yes.
So on Walnut, 5 feet off?
Yes.
Behind your existing building?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. That was all I had. Thank you. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and stop here, and we're going to open it up to general public comments. So go ahead and state your name.
How you doing? Thank you. Francisco Ramirez, here at Paso Robles. I'm coming to support Christian because I've known him since he was born. I believe I gave him a physical and gave him shots when I used to work at community health centers here in Templeton. And he's grown up to be a great young man. Sorry about that. He is a small business individual, as you guys know, and he's willing to do and work with you guys in the city and see what he can do to comply with whatever you need him to do, as you've seen done these long 7 years. I remember when we first came in, we came in and supported him. It was the whole community here in Paso Robles, all the local business people. I believe it's the most everyone that was on Paso Robles Street that does, automotive repair, automotive work. And I keep hearing the word, storage and storage and storage. Well, to me, I don't think it's really a storage location, like somewhere, you would put an old car and keep it there until, you bring it out for cruise night in Paso Robles downtown. It's space that he needs to use for cars that are brought to him, as you know, that need to be repaired, whether it's, something that's broken down or didn't pass smog. He's an auto shop. He's not an auto parts store. So he needs to get and find those parts to get them. I don't think one mechanic in Paso Robles or anywhere will tell you, oh, I get parts in 2 days. I get parts in 3 days. I guarantee it, I'll get it here in 5. No, because you don't know who has it, who doesn't have it, and what inventory is really going on, or, with parts of anywhere. So, I would like to have this, the commission, make amendments and help him continue and succeed with his business. And notice that when the complaints were started, I remember it was a neighbor that it was behind Walnut Street, but around the property, it's all commercial. You got barber shops next door, lavanderia, laundromat, store. Behind it was the health department before, and now the health department moved to 4th Street, and now it's just all dental, a pediatric dentist. Next door is the gasoline station. So all around it is all commercial. In front of him, yes, there's residents, and then I believe none of the ones in the front have complained. I'm sorry. It was just the one, particular one in the back. And when, the complaint was, it was because his cars, were making it look, ugly and terrible. And what did he do?
Got to wrap it up.
What did he do? He took, action and beautified it. And if you go yourself, you said you drive by on Crescent Road, it does look beautiful. It looks clean because you got that fence. He put up landscaping there, so he has done and improved, and he's willing to work with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and state your name.
Have to press a button. Hi, my name is Music Macaro Sanchez, and I'm a neighbor. I live at 628 Shannon Hill Drive, and I've lived there for 11 years now. So I wanted to come today to speak for Christian. I have a lot to say. I'm going to try and make it fast. Okay, so Christian has helped me and my family for the whole time that we have lived there. His employees are locals, and he helps locals. For 10 years, 7 years, I guess, but since he's been there, he's been helping teachers. He helps paraeducators at the school district. He helps my mom and very nicely. Okay, some of you know my mom. Okay, anyway, so he's just there to help the community. There's so many random things you guys brought up. So getting around his shop, I walk by every day, sometimes 3 times a day, and their staff is so well trained that they can move those vehicles so quickly that it's not even dangerous at all. Like, I will walk through, if you drive down Crescent, you probably see me, and I'm walking by and I'm never in danger of getting hit by cars. So whatever they're doing in there, they know what they're doing, and they're moving cars safely. On the car being left as storage, my car just broke down for a month. This guy towed my car 4 different times in a month. So I know that trailer is being moved frequently. What he was saying is it being on Walnut is it's on Walnut when he drops off a car and comes back to go pick up another car. So it's usually not there very long. He does put it away every night, I believe. I might be speaking wrong, but it's just hard to back it in every time he drives it out. And I'm sorry, I spend a lot of time on the street. Anyways, I'm a teacher, and he helps me all the time, and I don't make that much money, so it's really, really helpful. But my suggestion for you guys is, I think the easiest thing, and I'm just teacher, so don't listen to me, but just, I think that he did not mean to build the fence. I think the easiest thing for everybody would be to fix him pay whatever fine you want, because I'm sure Christian would pay that because he's a great person. And then really, I recommend that you update the city site whatever that word is called. The contract that you're looking at from 1987, that is so old. We really need to make a new site contract or whatever, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong word, for this day and age, and then go from there. And then it would be so much easier because we're looking at 1987, guys. Okay, that was a long time ago. And if you remember what used to be there, they used to sell drugs out of that building. And if you don't know that, I'm sorry, that's what it was before Christian was there. Rad Tunes had bad stuff going on. And if you don't know it, nothing is going on drug related at this place. And I just want to make sure that you guys know that. His staff rides bikes to work so that they don't take up parking spots. They can fit 4 in the front right there. And the fence, I think he only made, I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. The fence he only made because neighbors were complaining. And I think all those neighbors had moved. And I would be happy to go around the whole neighborhood and get a petition for him because I know almost all the neighbors use him. And it's the most convenient service ever. Please, I have one more thing to say. Please really consider him. Okay, you're talking about ADA something, but our streets are not ADA compliant with the new construction. If you haven't noticed, I'm gonna stay for that as well, because there's not 4 feet of space. So if we are picking on this poor, not very, I'm sorry if you're rich, he's not wealthy, he cannot hire engineers like some other places around here building these amazing hotels that are awesome, but he doesn't have that money. We really need to keep this business. I know you want me to sit down. Please consider it. Really, the easiest way is just to redo that plan. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't want you to yell at me. Sorry, Rob.
You're good. Hi there. Go ahead and state your name, please.
Chantel Maldonado. And you guys are lucky you only gave me a week to get people here because I would have had the whole community again. So, first of all, I want to, on the storage. One, I've wrecked my car 3 times. I DoorDash, I'm on the roads a lot. Christian has towed me, and I have USAA. There's not a local office, so I have to wait for an adjuster to drive out from LA or wherever the nearest adjuster is. That can take 2 to 3 days first. Then he has to wait to get the estimate, and then he has to wait to get the parts. So it's not always a 2-day turnaround, and we're not talking about body work and all that stuff, because he'll send it out if it needs to happen. But he does the basic work as well. He helps people. He goes out for his community. He does everything he needs. To put that extra bay in, you're talking about storage. It's also going to give him more time and more space to work on more cars to get those cars out of there. So it's kind of a catch-22. I get it. But a storage, it's not West Coast Auto and Towing where total cars are sitting in the back. All these vehicles are being worked on, except his trailer. But he's constantly towing people as well. And he really needs this approved to get it expanded, expand his business, let the people, nobody else wants to go anywhere else. You know, I have USAA, I can go to Caliber Collision and Kia. I bring it to Christian because I trust him. He's a good mechanic and he knows what he's doing. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Any other comments in the public? Seeing none. Marcy? Any callers?
There are no callers.
No callers. All right, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to the commission for some hopefully final thoughts, questions, comments. Commissioner Neal.
I do have a question on the parking requirements. It seems that if I read the staff report, that the existing site has 12 stalls, but only requires 7 based on the site or based, I guess the original requirement from 1987 was 7, they have 12. So now they're required to have 12 plus the 3 and the 1 making the 16. So I'm not sure I understand.
So the way I read the staff report is the condition in the resolution explains 7 spaces required, but there was a site plan exhibit also attached to the resolution, which graphically showed 12. So that's where the 7 and the 12 is coming from. So the two columns are taking in consideration the new project and adding those spaces to whether it's 7 or whether it's 12. So the Planning Commission may uphold, hey, let's go by the 7 that was in the condition of approval in 87. What's being shown here is we also had the site plan that was approved with that resolution, and it showed 12 spaces. So that's where that's coming from. But, you know, it could be the 7 or the 12 is what the use.
But I guess my question is that if you do the math based on the zoning requirements, I don't know how we can get to 16.
I think the thing you need to keep in mind, when this comes back to you, you need to approve it. And you need to approve it on a finding of neighborhood compatibility. It seems like there's a lot of evidence in the record that parking is a significant problem on the site. So regardless of the math and the code, you need to determine that it's compatible, and parking is the big issue that potentially makes it incompatible with the neighborhood. So I think from staff's position is we're going to recommend that you provide at least 16 spaces, just because every picture you ever see has at least that many cars on the site. Now, you guys might be able to make findings that you don't think they need that many, but that'll be up to the commission. That's not what staff's going to recommend.
And then is option 2, is that direct staff and applicant to prepare a final site plan based on the applicant's proposed site plan? So that would require a conditional use permit update? Or would it?
They all do.
They all do.
Because the approved plan is this. So we know that's not what's going on. The question is, do you update to this, or something else? We just want direction on that question.
So I guess I was under the I misunderstood it was, so we could look at the larger site plan. But we could look at this as part of a CUP update.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what the applicant is proposing. We don't think it's consistent with the neighborhood or the code because of the storage use. DRC seemed to think the same thing, but we're kind of at a point where we just need clarity, both us and the applicant. So we know, do you guys want to see this come back for an amendment? Or do you want to see something more like staff's recommendation come back for an amendment? Or do you want something different than those two? Because, you know, we've been playing this for 7 years. We just need to get it over with one way or the other.
Great, thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Kogler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I would commend staff and the commissions that sat before us for keeping this going for 7 years, because it clearly is a good business that serves the community well. Nobody questions that. It's just a matter of how we make this fit together. I was on the DRC, and I saw the staff, what was on the screen a minute ago, the recommended site plan. And I can't speak for the other two members, but I can speak for myself. My final comment was, hopefully you can come back with something that's a little bit more towards this direction. Doesn't have to be exactly this, but something that reduces the outdoor storage. I think I first looked at the site one of the times it was coming to the commission. I'm going to guess it was maybe 2022, I'm not sure. And there were more vehicles parked back there than what's shown in the photos, from what I recall. There were a lot of vehicles stacked back in there. Whether they were active repairs or not, I don't know. It seems to be a challenge, and maybe you bumped up from minor to not quite major, but a little bit closer because you are swapping out transmissions and a few things that take more time. The original CUP, based on the uses that were there, I think assumed, first of all, probably, I'm guessing, no towing in. Maybe that happened once in a while by an outside towing entity. But it talks about oil changes and lube jobs. I'm not sure you get lube jobs anymore, but aside from that, stereo installation, those kind of things. That somebody brings a car in at 7 in the morning and it's done by 4 in the afternoon. The nature of the business has changed over time, and it's not a criticism, it's a fact, and it's the fact that he's doing a good business that serves the community well. So in my mind, the original site plan, which has been brought back again, doesn't fly with me. It has too much outdoor storage, and I think there's just too much propensity to put stuff back there. And if that's reduced in size, I still think it's followed up with more restrictions about what can be there. I am open to an alternative that says maybe there's a little more storage than what's shown in the purple on the recommended site plan. But I would go back to my closing comment at the DRC. I think it has to be closer to this before something I personally could approve than what's on the screen right now. And I don't know where that hybrid is. It's very rare, and I've worked with many communities in my career. It's very rare that staff would come back with a site plan. It's kudos to staff in this to try to keep it going and to try to resolve this in a manner that keeps this business going. And so I do affirm the fact that I think staff did a good job of bringing this forward. I would hope we can get somewhere between this and what was on the screen a minute ago that's amenable. But to me, there's simply too much outdoor storage, and it becomes an outdoor storage use given the applicant's site plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you, Chair. I would, right off the top, concur with a lot of comments from Commissioner Kogler. I would agree with a lot of that, of what he has said. And I have been an advocate for more spaces around town for this type of business and in the right use, in the right space, in the right zoning code. And I know it's difficult because I've worked with people that have had to abide or get a CUP for this exact type of business, even heavier use. So I can understand where you're coming from. I appreciate that the community really supports you and that you're supportive of the community. I think the staff has been very generous here in attempting to try and make provide some type of direction for the business. I noted, I've been by there many times. I drive by there a lot, and the amount of stuff that's, being stored in the back there's a lot. And then I noticed that the ingress and egress in the property fluctuates from day to day. I'm not even sure how you get in and out sometimes. And I noted, many times the trailer and trucks are parked, in front of actually an ingress or egress apron. So I know it's a tight spot. Unfortunately, your business has grown to the point where if that's the direction you want to go, I think you've got to figure out another way to do that. Otherwise, I would love to see something more along the lines of the staff recommendation. C2 does not allow for storage, and that's pretty much what it has become. And the fencing being right on the property line, in another zoning, that would probably have been approved. But the fact that it was done, I get it. You called in and there was a miscommunication. Totally understand that. And I think as a commission and I think as a city, we've been trying to help facilitate this for you moving forward, even from the last time you were in here, having to do with the grading of the wall. So I think that 7 years has been a long time to see this happening. I could see, even just in this diagram here, you being able to back your trailers into 15 and 16 parking spots there, especially if there's a way to landscape and block that, obfuscate that from the road. There's lots of ideas with this plan that I think could still make it work and satisfy a lot of the zoning code issues that we have right now with the new CUP. Unfortunately, the old CUP is very old. So my thoughts are I'd like to see this in the future coming back with something more along the lines of what staff has recommended. And as Commissioner Kogler said, that's a really rare thing to have city staff assist you in doing that, especially since you're going to add a bay. I think that would be a great thing to give you another bay and to rotate that in and out. So those are my thoughts right off the top. I don't really have any other recommendations to go beyond that. I think staff recommendation site plan is where I'd be leaning for sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marlowe?
Yeah, I do see what my other commissioners are saying regarding reducing the storage area because obviously there's a lot going on back there. My concerns are, and again, the city can't continue to spend resources and time policing these type of things. Trailers are getting parked on Walnut. Sure, you could back a trailer into 15, 16. I think what ends up happening is you can either fence all of it or not, and then the cars just get parked in the parking spots. So sure, we could do that. We could reduce the storage area. I think you're going to end up seeing more cars in the parking lot. I think there's probably maybe you leave it at 12 and you split the difference on the fence and bring it out a little bit more. I think that giving them more would be better. I don't think going all the way over to the setback, and I think adding the landscape area, you can add some trees or something that can cover some stuff. I mean, I know you're going to end up parking a trailer there because that's the options you have, right? You're trying to make a site work that's not zoned or really designed for what you're trying to do, and you got a lot of vehicles in there. So I see where the other commissioners are coming from. I'd like to try to give them some more storage, because I truly believe that no matter what you're going to do based on the photos and what they're doing, and I do believe the applicant really makes the best effort to not do that, and to keep cars, especially in at night. But if he doesn't got a spot to do it and he's got cars there, he's not going to send them away. He's going to do the right thing for the people in the community. So you're just going to have cars parked along the side of the building instead of in the yard. So I think we should try to work on maybe that spot 11, 12. I don't know what the number would be technically to the zoning. My guess is if it was 7 plus 3 plus 1, that's 11. So maybe you get rid of 12 through 16. Well, 15 and 16 are negligible, but maybe you bring that fencing out where they could park cars in those spots inside the fence, because if not, my guess is you're going to end up outside the fence, unfortunately. So I would be in favor of splitting the difference a little bit. I think you should move the fencing to give a few more spots in there. I'm pretty confident the trailer is going to end up going along that landscape area. So maybe part of the condition of the landscape area is we put some sort of landscaping that will help conceal that. But at the end of the day, it's already been a challenge. It's been a challenge a long time. We want the applicant to stay here. He does support the community. He does provide local jobs. He does a lot of really good things. It's a challenging site. It's a challenging thing, but that's would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Roden?
When I look at the proposed, and again, hats off to staff, I think in other communities, they wouldn't have worked with you for this long. They would have just pulled your permit and said, forget it. Hats off that they've tried to remedy some for you, some for the zoning. One thing I might bring out is in your proposed patio cover, you can utilize that for storage with vehicles that you've worked on that day but haven't finished. The same for the auto repair. So those areas are not lost to storage if you so choose. And again, if you go back to the other, if you want to bump it out a little bit for a couple of the spaces that you may not need, I'd be fine with that as well, but the fence has got to move in at some point, and we got to have a little bit more or a little bit less storage area. So that's pretty much what I think.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the challenge that we always have is, I think, and I'll speak for my fellow commissioners, is I think we've proven time over time that we are pro-business. Unfortunately, sometimes even being pro-business doesn't allow us certain things that we'd like to see. There's no question that Mr. Mercado is a service to the community, especially in that area. I think Commissioner Marlowe hit on something that I think is a, I don't want to say it's a fact, but I don't know how he gets around it. And that is, if we go with the staff recommended or some rendering of staff recommended, my concern is very simply is that he's going to have to park them visibly to the neighborhood, and we're going to start getting complaints again. I don't know how he gets around it. If we want businesses to succeed, and we say we're pro-business for the most part, we want him to be successful. We want him to grow. You know what? What's the worst thing that happens? He's got extra cars because he's extra busy. He's providing a service to the community. It's a tough one. It's a tough spot to be in. So I can see what he's trying to accomplish. I definitely see what the city's trying to accomplish. And I agree with Commissioner Roden. I don't know of any other planning department that would work with an applicant this long. I just don't. So kudos to the staff for making every effort. But I get what Warren is saying. He needs some direction because we got to put this thing to bed for everybody involved. My recommendation would be to utilize what the applicant is proposing with some adjustments. That's what I think, because mainly, if the vehicles are going to be parked one of two places, either behind a fence or in plain view, I don't know how you get around that. And I think if you pick the lesser of two evils, I think most in the community, I don't live there, but according to staff, we've had a number of complaints, but since the fence has been up, we're not aware of a lot of complaints, if any. So to me, it would make, if that is the case, and if that's the honest case, to me, it would seem to make a little bit more sense to enhance the proposed site by the applicant. Yeah, if we got to shrink it down a little bit, add some landscaping, make it a little nicer, confirm that the wall was actually signed off, concern our grading was signed off. Some of those things that needed to be done, if those things have been verified, I think it would be a benefit to the applicant and to the staff to put this thing to bed by modifying this one a little bit. Keep those cars behind something that is not visible so that we don't start getting complaints again. That's kind of where that's where I'm leaning. I think the staff's rendering is beautiful as well. However, I think adding that number of parking spots visibly is going to create another problem, and that's my concern. So,
can I ask a quick question?
I'm done with my comment. Commissioner Roden, yes.
Thank you. Just a quick question. If that fence were left where it is, how many parking spaces exist right now? Out in front and on the side, or on both sides? 11?
Outside the fence, I believe.
Yes, outside the fence.
I think 11.
11. Chairman, are you proposing that you split the difference with the fence so that you have a little bit more gap there? I'm just trying to give staff as much direction as we can with this.
Maybe. The other thing is, and I get it, if it's behind the fence, maybe it's not utilized exactly how it's striped. But with parking striping in the back of a fence, would that appease the city requirement for parking? In other words, so along Walnut Drive right there, what if that was all striped for parking? It's behind a fence, I understand that. But, I mean, to me, again, the challenge that I think we're facing is, do we make the parking of vehicles visible to the residents, or do we not? Just a thought.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think I've been on this commission long enough to understand that when we do conditional use permits, we can add a requirement that no overnight parking is allowed outside of the building. So we've done that with Autocraft on Union. We did that with several others. So, I mean, I think we can, if we're worried about parking out in the open, we can add a condition to this conditional use permit that does not allow that. So we have that ability, and we have done that in the past.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Neal. Absolutely. My only challenge is, as with Autocraft, only because we brought them up, I do drive by that one quite a bit, and I know the owner of that one well, and same type of scenario. Out of need, sometimes it's necessary for him to have them. Now, the benefit is that he has a room in the back where you can keep them. So I'm just trying to help limit a potential problem without handicapping the applicant's ability, one, to be in business, but two, to grow. That's it. But I definitely get what you're saying. Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you, Chairperson. Along with Commissioner Neal's comments, we've done it many times with CUPs and even in zoned areas where it's C3, which is this is allowed, this use is a lot more allowed use in those areas. So I think keeping in with that understanding of what the zoning allows is very important in this nature. I'm a little reluctant to reward a fence being installed and then just because of where it's at saying there's a storage area now and hey, you know, we got to keep them in business, so let's keep that moving along and we'll roll with what's there. I think the purpose of the CUP, unfortunately because it's C2, is so that there's a lot more, you know, neighborhood and community, more neighborhood, what's the term I'm thinking of, conformity. And I think that in this case, we're already conforming over to having larger type of automotive use, which I'm not saying I'm opposed to that. I think it's a necessity, it sounds like, and it's a wonderful thing. But you know, now we're talking about towing. We're talking about, you know, towing storage. Now we're talking about, and all those things come into play when you're looking at the type of zoning that we're talking about. And we're here trying to work, the city has been trying to work with the applicant to try and keep your business running in a C2 zoning, with the property was limited when you bought it in the first place, unfortunately. And I think, you know, I get it. You want to expand that business. I want you to expand the business. That's why I said the other bay I think is really crucial for his business. But at the same time, again, we have to fall back on some of the zoning that's there. And I don't think that adding more or leaving the fencing as it sits is something that I could go along with personally. I think that whether you want to argue about the parking spaces or the amount of, you know, storage, I agree with Commissioner Roden. I think that you're going to have a lot of use with that space after hours for storing those things. I've seen it with other businesses in town, the way they function and the way they schedule and the way they handle their clientele. In this case, they don't have towing, so, and that's totally different, right? That's an added, you know, service, which in this case, even with that, I think the city is trying to accommodate, you know, your use. So in my opinion, I think there is absolutely a way that we can condition for storage not in those spaces overnight. It may not be something that someone's policing on a daily basis, but I think the spirit of it would give, you know, Christian, the applicant, sorry, a good sense of what would happen if a car showed up late at night and it's sitting in your parking spot and you got to get to it tomorrow. Okay, all right. Is somebody going to come down and cause a complaint? Probably not. But the spirit of it is that you're going to try everything you can to keep it in your storage or keep it in the bays overnight if it's necessary at that time. So that's my opinion on that. And I fall back to the staff's recommendations. Whether that space is a little bit bigger, I don't know. But I can just tell you along those lines, dealing with the setbacks that is part of that code anyway, and dealing with the fence issue. And we haven't even talked about the fact that the fence isn't even, Commissioner Roden, I think might have brought up, it's not even on the backside yet. So we haven't even talked about the height or anything like that. I think that would come with any new CUP submission, obviously, which then we tweak into, you know, all the differences we all may have as commissioners here. But I think giving staff that standpoint of, I don't think we can reward, in my opinion, the fence that's there. I think we have to establish that the site plan that's presented here does that, and I'm not in favor of that.
Sorry. Commissioner Kogler.
Thank you. I guess in my mind, there's probably more than this, but there's three components to getting from where we are tonight to something that's more accessible. In my mind, it's some level of reduction of the outdoor storage. And I don't know what that means, but it's between the staff report and what's labeled proposed new site plan, which really is the old site plan with new buildings. One piece. The other piece is, in order for me to be able to say in the future that this is a precedent setting for somebody who really wants to have an outdoor storage yard in this zone, this storage has to be tied to this specific use as part of the conditional use language. And something on the order of a statement that short-term storage for active repairs of customer vehicles only, no storage of construction equipment, building supplies, any other non-automotive related products or equipment would be allowed. We talked about the potential of not having any parking in the front during the hours in which the business is closed. I think there's something to say that maybe stored items need to be below the height of the fence. That brings more continuity to the neighborhood. No repair work being done outside of the two buildings per the plan and the enclosed roof area. Some of those kind of things, I think, as written stipulations as part of a permit that shows a site plan with less outdoor storage, but hopefully meeting the needs of the applicant, could take place. There's another piece of this, though, that I don't think is part of the city's responsibility, or certainly not a permit item, and that's simply business management. It's incumbent upon you to manage the flow of how much work you can take and how many vehicles you can store there. One person calling and saying, my car's coming in, I got to wait for at least 3 days for an adjuster to look at it, 5 more days to get the parts, one person's fine. You get 10 of those calls, so I think to 8 or 9 of them, you have to say, I can't do you right now. There's a business management piece of this that's incumbent on you, and I think you do a great job as per the public testimony. But I think you need to be more conscious of how many vehicles you have and what that means in terms of your turnover for repair work, and manage that to fit the site. You've got a business that simply has grown, I think that really has grown well beyond this site. And the comment was made earlier, piggybacking on that, it would be wonderful if you somehow could magically locate a much bigger site. You could do wonderful things, but I realize that's not the case. So you need to work in this with the city and with your own business to make this actually work for the community. So I think those kinds of things in my mind would lead to something that I would vote approval on. Bringing back what's labeled as proposed new site plan will not get a positive vote for me. It's got to be somewhere in between. Thank you.
Commissioner Marlowe.
I just have a suggestion, because it sounds like most, if not all, but at least a few of the other commissioners are open to having somewhere in the middle. If you could go back to the last slide you were just on, the site plan, the applicant site plan. So moving the fence along Walnut beyond the landscaping, making the landscaping part of it. Maybe it's, you can do it a little off the landscaping, moving it back, and then moving the part between the building and Walnut going east to west, north a parking spot or two. That reduces the area. It gives room for a trailer. I know we're getting into specifics here. That splits the difference a little bit. That adds we could split the difference on those parking spaces. We went from 16 to 13. You could add 2 to the north there, and you could move it back and get the landscaping that reduces the size, allows them to get the trailer in there, and allows for the additional parking spots. I do agree with Commissioner Kogler. I like all those different conditional uses. To the no overnight parking one, sure, we make it a condition. He violates the condition. We've worked with him for 7 years and haven't shut down his business. Are we going to shut down his business? Maybe I shouldn't say that, but let's be honest, we're here because he's a community member and he's doing a lot of good work. To the business management practices, there's probably some efficiencies you could gain. Putting cars up on lifts, cars underneath, you might do that already. Not allowing people to come in already, that's your business. I can't tell you how to do that, but there's probably some strategies you could come up with. My recommendation is take what Commissioner Kogler said, move the fencing into the landscaping, provide the landscaping, run the fencing along the backside so it is 100% enclosed, and moving the fencing between the building and Walnut going east to west, I'm assuming that's east to west, 2 spots to the north, allowing for 13 spots, reducing the area, enclosing the entire site, providing adequate spot for trailers and parking, and including all the language of Commissioner Kogler. That would be my recommendation. I'm happy.
Almost sounds like a motion. We're getting close there. Any other? Commissioner Roden.
How far in are you talking about moving the fencing? Are you going to the west side of where I think those are the dumpsters there, right? Would it be basically along the edge of the end of the parking that's labeled 12, 13, and 14?
No. I was saying running it along the landscaping that would die into 16 there. Instead of it being on the outside of the landscaping area along the sidewalk, you would move it to the west on the landscaping. I'm not proposing the landscape on the north part of it. I know the staff would like to see that. I don't think a lot of people are going to end up seeing that, especially if we do keep the fence. Unless you open up the fencing like they propose, no one's going to see that landscape area.
I agree with that. But as far as the trash cans there, for their entry to be able to come in for those trash cans, if he's allowed to utilize that for storage, is there going to be a particular area where you have to keep clear for them to go in and out?
We can make that part of the conditional use permit, that there must be a clear path between the rolling gate open during business hours and the trash enclosure. But in theory, could he park something in front of it? Absolutely. And again,
I don't have a problem with that. I agree that if that was in the form of a motion, along with what Commissioner Kogler had stated, and that we have a clear path for the trash area, and backed up on the other landscape area. And I agree with you. I don't know that there needs to be landscaping on the backside there unless it's to secure a slope if there's soil or whatever that needs to be secured by landscaping. But other than that, I think just the frontal part.
Commissioner Kogler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would ask staff a question is how much specific guidance do you need or have you gotten close? Because that site planning by staff is one thing, site planning by 7 members on the commission is a scary thing to me. And, you know, I think hopefully you've got the tone of what our interests are and you could carry forward without us pointing a specific space and say, move this, move that, because I think that would be take all night to get to.
I think we've got what we need. So obviously we're going toward option 3, which is kind of a hybrid between the two. And I think we've got enough, and we'll try to work with the owner to see if we can get that drawn up in an actual plan that we can bring back to you.
Before I make this motion, does anyone have any other comments or concerns with the motion or want to add any additional data?
Commissioner Christensen?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I just want to reiterate, this is a C2 zone. There is no storage yards allowed in C2 zone. It's ancillary that the city is actually trying to help this applicant with that space. So we will be setting somewhat of a precedent, and I want you to understand that as well. As an applicant, I think, again, the city is working really hard to try and make this work for you. So I wanted to make sure that was understood.
Okay. Commissioner Neal?
I think if we go down this road, I think I definitely want to put a time frame to it. We've been working on this for 7 years.
Yep.
So I would definitely like to give a 120 day, 180 day, whatever that may be, because we could see some foot dragging and continue this thing for another few years while we're trying to agree to a site plan. So that is something I would like to see part of this motion.
Okay. And to add to that, we've really worked with you, and this is my opinion. If we change the conditional use and you drag your feet and don't do it, no one here wants to stop your business. I think that we made that clear. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but at this point in the game, it might, right? Just to be transparent, if we change the rules, which we're changing, these are not allowed, and we're allowing it for you because we think you are a good member of the community. I would highly suggest that you get on it and really make the effort to make this happen. It's not far off from what you want. Yeah, it's a little bit more work, but I think overall, and that's just a suggestion, because no one here, obviously it's been 7 years, we haven't revoked it, but we don't want to do that. But don't put us in a position where we may have to, like we really don't want to. So that being said, I'm going to make a motion. I move that we move option 3 and direct staff to prepare a final site plan. And the alternate direction, kind of some high level things are fencing is going to move along Walnut to provide that walnut landscaping. The fence would move a little farther north to allow for 13 spots going from the building. No overnight parking in the spots outside the fence. There needs to be always a drive open to the trash enclosure during business hours. The time frame I would set at 180 days. If anyone has any suggestions of that to make this happen. I would also say to complete the perimeter fence along the backside there, and then add the specific language Kogler had mentioned, which is that this is specific storage yard for this use, and it's not allowing those uses for continued storage or in C2 districts. And then if we can, a height restriction that nothing can be over the fence. So I think I got most of those items. If I'm missing anything.
And I'll second that. Does that cover everything, Commissioner?
Chair. Yeah, I'm just giving Warren a chance to catch up there. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Commissioner Kogler?
I think the tone of that is fine, and again, I'm an advocate of general guidance here. And I would encourage staff, to the degree that you can think with a little more time and a little more creativity. I think the intent is to tie the storage use specifically to this building and its business operations and not make it a storage yard overall as a precedent for other uses. So I think the kinds of points that I just threw off the top of my head, you can certainly throw some more on there that probably will make that even a stronger connection.
All right, we've got a first, we've got a second.
I have a question. I'm a little confused. The motion was for specifics of a site design as number 3. Is that something that we're doing tonight, or are we just giving recommendation to staff on which direction to go, not the specifics of an actual site-specific design? Is that correct?
Yeah, what's in the motion is what we're looking for. And now we'll work with the property owner to try to bring that back to you in 180 days.
So the specifics of, maybe I missed some of them, I apologize. Could you read some of those back? I'm sorry, Warren.
So within 180 days, you want to return with a site plan that moves the fences in from Walnut, back from Creston. You want 13 spaces striped outside of the fence, no overnight parking outside of the fence, include the fencing on the back, additional landscape, and then to add many of the use restrictions as listed by Commissioner Kogler.
And an open drive approach to the trash enclosure.
Those are ideas, but the final plan will have to be approved. Okay. There were so many, and I'm just confused by it, so I apologize. And I would like to see it a faster time pace than 180 days, because I don't feel like the 180 days was really fast enough last time, in my opinion. So
I can amend that to 120 days.
That would be fine with me. Is that fine with you guys?
120 days?
I'm going to amend the site plan coming back in 120 days.
Site plan.
Yeah, not the execution of the war, but the actual site plan. And that's where I was confused. I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's
the work. And then we can, 120 days for the site plan.
Yeah, we're asking for the site plan.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
All right. Uh-oh. I think we're there, Warren. We got a first and we got a second.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Roden.
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler.
Aye.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Chairperson Rubius.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you guys all for that one. All righty. Let's move on to discussion items. Consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve the DRC minutes and Planning Commission minutes, March 31st, April 2nd, April 14th, April 8th, April 22nd?
I move.
Got a first by Commissioner Roden. Can I get a second?
Second. I'll second.
Commissioner Marlowe. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roden.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler.
Aye.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Chairperson Rubius.
Aye.
They all pass 6-0.
Thank you. All right, other reports. Paso Robles Streetscape and Ad Hoc Committee.
No report on that tonight.
Okay. Housing constraints and opportunities.
So zoning code updates part of that, and housing constraints committee. So the council did adopt new bylaws for the housing constraints committee. They've basically grandfathered in the existing members, but starting next year, we're going to start to appoint additional members and then start a rotation process for existing members. We will probably be scheduling a housing constraints meeting this summer, and then we do have some zoning code update items that we expect to bring back to the commission to revisit this summer as well.
Okay. DRC committee rotation schedule. Any issues, concerns, changes? Commissioner Roden.
I'd like to request if nobody has an issue with this. This is a very good learning experience for me. I would, however, miss one day in June and one day in July, June 30th and June 7th. But I'd like to request continuing on the DRC through June, July, and August, if that's acceptable.
So if anybody needs any dates filled in for any times, Commissioner Kogler speaking up quickly.
Well, I have June, and I have a conflict on the 23rd. So if someone is able to handle that one, I've got the rest of June taken care of. And speaking, I don't know if it's selfishly, but I'm not willing to give up any of my DRC slots to anybody else where I'm not scheduled and don't have a conflict.
You could have all of my August slots if you like them.
Thank you. How about July?
You can have all my July spots because it's always a challenge for me to get up here. I do like being on the DRC. Is this I just want to make sure we're not breaking any rules by doing something of this nature.
No, Commissioner has complete discretion on how this is organized.
If you would like to take July and August, that wouldn't work for me because it's always been a challenge for me. So
I'll go off it in June,
Well,
but I'll.
Hang on.
Sorry. It's an incredible challenge for me, but as part of a commission and me accepting this role, I make time for the DRC. So I'm not all that excited about this swapping. I think we are on a rotation, and I think it should remain that. But that's my opinion.
okay, I understand your opinion, and how about I think about that and we don't make any changes, and the next planning commission meeting we can have a conversation about what that would look like.
And it's at the pleasure, whatever you guys want. It is, there are intricacies that I'm able to, I think, learn firsthand. That's a benefit to somebody that's new on the commission, but I certainly understand everyone wants to participate.
Well, and I think that a lot of times we have, especially come summer months, there's always a need for folks filling in and helping out. So I think we may find more openings in June, July, August individually as things surface. So there might be plenty of opportunity there too. So we'll leave things as is for now, and then we can revisit it. Commissioner Kogler.
I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that I have a conflict on June 23rd. but I'll be glad to come back and say that at subsequent meetings as well. And I just would add on a serious note, I think we all bring strengths to this commission. We bring strengths to the DRC, and I also am not in favor of deviating much from our established schedule. I think we add things individually that I don't want to take any of the 7 out of that equation.
Understood.
Well, and am I allowed to show up if I don't say anything? Because it is an open meeting, right?
No, because there's a quorum, I believe.
But if I don't say anything, I'd be part of the public.
That's a Warren question, I would guess.
Yeah, did you hear that question, Warren?
Since it's a public meeting, I could show up as part of the public, but just not give opinions or ask questions. I know I was able to do that at committees when I was on the city council, when there were 2 other members at a committee meeting. You want to check on that, that's fine.
Yeah, I think we potentially have a quorum issue. So yeah, I'd have to check and see, if you showed up as a member of the public, that could be an issue. So we'll have to check on that.
Okay, and if there's no more other questions on that, food truck code enforcement update.
Yes, so we've had some members of the commission, we've had members of the council, we've had the city manager, food trucks and what is permitted or not is a hot topic these days. So I just wanted to let the commission know that that is something that's being looked at. We are working with code enforcement. We're taking a look at the codes that regarding food trucks, when a temporary use permit is required, when one isn't. When it's on private property, it always needs property owner approvals and how that is confirmed, and all of those things staff is being asked to look at. I think the council is wanting some updates in the future as well. So we just wanted to give you an update that that's something that's being looked at. Food trucks, but also the other sales that are going on. There's beyond trucks, there's the fruit carts, and there's just stuff being sold. And we're working with code enforcement to come up with hey, we can let you know on the zoning side, on the planning side, what needs a business license, what the zoning code says, so that gives you, the code enforcement people, more specific things to discuss when they go out to say, do you have a temporary use permit, or do you have permission to be here? Because they're everywhere, and we understand that. So that is something that's being looked into. And when we get something together that we have the ability to put on an agenda to discuss further, we will. So, because the council is going to want that as well. Anything to add on that one?
And I think we're planning some sort of briefing study session with the council in August.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Niblick Road Ad Hoc Committee?
Yeah, so we have 3 members of the commission on the ad hoc, Kogler, Christensen, and Covarrubias. So maybe I'll turn it over to one of the committee members and maybe give us just kind of an update on where we're at with the process.
Sure, Commissioner Christensen here. Basically, we focused in on some of the detail, especially the bookends to Niblick and what that would maybe look like. Discuss the bike path railing, safety railing is how I'll refer to it, I guess. We tried to dial in some of the recommendations for covering some of the block walls along Niblick, and various other little details like crosswalks, what those are going to look like. And I think lighting was one, landscaping. Those were some of the issues. There were some suggestions from the public of some design suggestions for the railing, entrances to the Riverwalk, entrances into the city, some various design ideas from some local artists, and also art in some of the landscaped areas along Niblick that will be getting improved. So I think I got everything there. I don't know that I missed much, but I think we gave City a pretty good detail start on that. One thing I did note when I was driving back across the bridge the other day, Warren, was that I noted that I never did ask about the lighting that's already on the bridge or the railing already on the bridge. So that might be a question that may come up the next time we talk about that. Any other questions from staff? From commissioners? No?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Yeah, so the next step is based on the direction from the committee, the design consultant's going to refine the concept once again, bring it back. If that looks good to the committee, then we'll probably then host an open house that everybody, including the commission, council, and the public, can all come and hopefully give us some feedback on the design. And then if we're pretty close to something that we have consensus on, we'll take that back to the council for a final blessing.
Great. Appreciate that. Warren, any update on that building on Spring Street that continues to sit there?
Yeah, so the city did obtain an inspection warrant from the courts to go in to inspect the structure. We have a closed session briefing on the results of the inspection findings coming to a closed session for the council soon.
Got it. Thank you for that. Okay, final commissioner comments. Any? Commissioner Kogler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know 2.5 years from now when I'm done on the commission, because I'm termed out if I'll have any legacy or not. But if I do, it might be, oh yeah, he was the ad hoc guy. So I'm on the Niblick Road Committee. That's a carryover from some things that happened earlier. I was one of the voices that said we needed a committee to deal with railroad because we had a concept that wasn't going anywhere. And I think the ad hoc committee helped push that forward, and I'm really proud of what's developed there. I'm still hopeful when I suggested we needed an ad hoc committee for Paso Robles Street that something will come out of that ultimately. I know the timing is a bit dicey there and there's a lot of issues there, but hopefully that will happen. So sound the trumpets. I want to do another ad hoc committee. I brought this up in my planning commission interview that to me, when I came into this community, one of the most interesting little aspects was Norma's Alley. And now that it's got street status, it's got an entry sign, there's some movement there. I really would like us to set up a similar ad hoc effort for Norma's Alley to take a look at some design ideas and approaches that maybe taps, if some of you are familiar with the Wooners that occurred in the Netherlands that have been around for 30 years, a great way to combine vehicle access and pedestrian access in interesting, articulated, artistic spaces. And I think there's great potential there, and I would like staff to look into whether or not we can do that and perhaps report back at a subsequent committee meeting as to if we can, how we might get that organized. Because there's a great resource there that we need to tap that will heighten interest in downtown even more than it is. So here we go, ad hoc number 3 or 4, depending how you want to count them. So thank you.
Any other comments? To staff, thank you, Darren, especially for, I know you, sounds like you stepped in today, so thank you for helping out. I know that was not easy. 7 years of dealing with that situation hasn't been fun, I'm sure. So I think we came up with some good ideas and some direction today, so thank you for that today. All right, staff comments?
Yeah, so we're looking forward. It looks like we don't have many items for June, so we're going to be canceling probably at least one meeting in June, and then that second meeting in July, because of the fair, we typically cancel that as a tradition as well. So right now, there's not a bunch of huge items coming. We're kind of in a little bit of a lull where some of these bigger projects get organized, so I think things will pick up. So, you know, it might be nice for the summer. Things will kind of maybe gear down, and then we'll pick up speed probably in the fall.
Okay.
What were the dates that you were thinking that would be canceled?
It's probably the first meeting in June and then the second meeting in July look like they're cancellations right now. Dante has something important to share.
Just one quick announcement. June 5th, it's a Thursday at 4 o'clock. We're doing a ribbon cutting for the Stony Creek footbridge, pedestrian bridge that just got recently completed in construction. So that's off of Nickerson Drive and Oak Hill Drive. There's kind of a multi-use trail that goes behind Highlands Church and connects back in there. So you guys are welcome to come and join the ribbon cutting if you'd like to.
Awesome. Is that something you send out, Marcy, by chance?
Yeah, the press release went out today. I'll forward it to you all.
Awesome. All righty. Sounds good. If there are no other staff comments, then I will take a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.